Thank you. Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. Welcome to the first tip. Unmute yourself when you're trying to talk to people in Microsoft Team meeting. I was just saying welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming. Today's meeting is or webinar is all about tips and tricks for using Microsoft Forms. Like I said, I try to do these webinars as kind of a general overview of the Microsoft tools that we have at our fingertips and how they can be used. And then if you ever wanted a more in-depth experience or tutorial or training on any of the platforms within our Microsoft tenant, please reach out to me and schedule meetings with me, one-on-one, group settings. I've been doing a lot of stuff like that recently. And it seems to really be helping people to get through their kind of fear of technology and how to use it, and to increase the efficiency of workflow and things like that. So again, today's webinar is all about Microsoft Forms. At the current moment, you do not have the ability to unmute or turn on your camera. For the first 20 minutes or so, I'll just go through the agenda items here. And last 10 minutes or so, hopefully. Sometimes we do end up going over. So again, I understand if people have to go, but any questions you have, just throw in the chat. Unfortunately, Cliff is usually here and he is usually moderating the chat for me. So just bear with me as far as also letting people in if they come in a few minutes late. So just bear with me to get through that. But if you do have questions as I'm going along, throw them in the chat. And then at the end, I'll go through everything and go through any questions you may have. And thanks for joining today. I'm going to get started. I'm going to wait maybe one more minute and then get started. So this way we can kind of get moving. But in the meantime, if you do want to follow along, some people like to learn that way. So if you're on your computer and you want to follow along with me while I am going through Microsoft Forms, I'm going to throw the link in the chat so that you can have that opened. So I'm going to throw that in the chat now. There you go. And Kim, thank you again for letting me know I was muted. Appreciate that. And Regina, based off our conversation the other day, you'll definitely pick up some important tips and information from this training today. So it'll help us to kind of guide our session that we have already scheduled coming up. So hopefully this helps you a little bit get a head start. Also, side note, these webinars are always recorded, so you can always go back to something that maybe I went over and you wanted to kind of rehear it again or re-see how to access that again or any of those things. It's always good to be able to go back to a training because sometimes a lot of information is thrown at these webinars or in any training, and you want to be able to go back and take your time through something. So these are always recorded and they are on the website. So and I always send out an email follow-up email that has the link for that as well. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing the agenda and I am going to share my browser and we're going to get started. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to move some things around so I could see you all at the same time in case there's any chats that come in. Okay. So you should be seeing my screen now, which I am currently in the web version, and I'm at forms.microsoft.com. This is one way that you can access Microsoft Forms. And just a general tip, if you ever need to access anything on the web, any Microsoft application on the web, if you just type the name of that application and then .microsoft.com, it will bring you directly to that application. So for example, if you want to go to Outlook, you could type outlook.microsoft.com and it'll bring you right to Outlook. So that's a great little tip or trick. Oops. So right now I'm in forms.microsoft.com. That's one way that you can access Microsoft Forms. But another way, obviously, is always if you go to your waffle on the left-hand side, if you do not see it in the drop-down option here, you always go to Explore Your Apps so you can find that alphabetized version. and look for forms. Sometimes if you haven't accessed something in the past, you may not see it right away. You shouldn't have a desktop application for forms. This seems to be the only way that we access forms within our tenant. But if you do have a desktop application, kudos to you because I don't have that. So again, this is how I access forms when I need to use them. Another thing I wanted to show you quickly, though, is there are templates for Microsoft Forms, which I think are awesome because sometimes people are like, well, I don't know, I don't want to spend time creating this whole thing. So there's two ways that you can access templates. So if you're at forms.microsoft.com, they have right across the top banner here, it's called Explore Templates. And if you click View All, it'll give you a bunch of different templates by category that you can choose, which means you could just click on it. It's kind of already pre-made, and then you could just go in and edit. And then they also have kind of overall general categories of templates. So if you know right away, instead of clicking View All, if you know right away that you're looking to create a feedback and evaluation survey, you can click right into this box and go right into those templates. But there's also another area that you can access templates, and not just for forms, but for any Microsoft application. So I also wanted to show you that. So this is create.microsoft.com. If you have not explored this, I highly suggest you taking a look at it. It is awesome. I am also going to throw this link in the chat for you as well. Give me 1 second. There you go. Right now I'm on the create forms specific page, and you can see here if I just scroll down, there are a ton of templates for Microsoft Forms. But if you go back and then you click down, oops, sorry, 1 second, there we go. And if you see here where it says create from scratch, if I do that drop down, you could see here, you could actually find other Microsoft applications, templates. You could get PowerPoint presentations, Word documents, Excel, planners, trackers, things like that. So these are really, really great. And it's kind of their AI version of a template. So it kind of helps you build it, which is really cool. So I definitely highly suggest checking this out. Okay, so let me go back. I'm going to get out of this and I'm back here. So now I'm back at forms.microsoft.com. And there are a couple options up at the top I wanted to show you. You have an option to either create a quiz or a form. The difference between the two is pretty simple. A quiz gives you the ability to collect and assign points or grades to the form. So if you need to assess somebody to be able to get a score, that's when you would want to create a new quiz. Obviously, this is more for the instructional side of the house. So if you're not in instruction and you just kind of need forms to collect data, survey staff, things like that, you're going to just click new form. But another great tool they have is what's called a quick import. So if you click that and you already have either a PDF or a Word document that has questions already in it, you can import that right into Forms right here, and it'll automatically kind of template out your form for you based off what you have on those documents already. So again, really cool feature to check out if you already have something created and you don't want to reinvent. All right. Next thing up is collections. So I'm going to show you, let me see, I'm going to go to my forms. So you can see here, I have a collection created titled webinar feedback. So every time I do a webinar and I send you that follow-up email, I always have a link to my form for feedback. I created a collection so that all of those forms sit in that collection as opposed to just being individual forms. So you can create a collection by just clicking new collection, titling it, and then add the forms that belong in that collection to that collection. It's kind of like, if you think about it, like your OneDrive, where you create a folder and then you put your documents in that folder that associate with that. It's kind of the same thing. So it's just a nice way to organize your forms. Okay, a few other things. Okay, list view versus tile view. So over here on the right-hand side, you can change the view of your forms. This would be the tile view. Kind of shows you the picture that you chose, the background for your form in the tile view, but you can also click into the list view and you could see it this way. So your choice and your preference on how you like to see the things represented. You can also filter here for a form that you may have created or a form that was shared with you based off keyword. So, if you know that you're looking for a form based on bloodborne pathogens, right? I could type that in if I can't see it in my list and it should pop up for you. But you also have the option to drill down here and click My Forms, Filled Forms, so forms that you already filled out, Shared with Me forms, or Favorites. So if you click on the three dots on any one of your forms and then click Favorite, those will show up in your favorites list. So very similar to how other Microsoft applications work. Another awesome thing I will show you. Actually, I have to go into a form to do that. So what I'm going to do is actually just go and create a new form. I'm not going to pull from a template. I want to start fresh so you guys can see that process. I'm going to click New Form. I'm not going to do a new quiz. So here as a new form, you get a complete blank slate. So first thing you want to do is title your form, right? So I'm just going to title this Webinar for Microsoft Forms. So once you title it, you could see that it automatically as well, number one is getting saved, and number two is saving as the title of the form. So you don't need to do that twice, which is really nice. So just go right in and title your form so that it automatically saves as the title in wherever you're saving the form as well. Then you have the description area. So here's where you could kind of give instructions or the reason for the form, any of that kind of uh, information that needs to be shared with somebody that you may be sharing this form to. Another thing, while you're setting up your form, if you click the three dots on the right-hand side, if you know that you need to share this form in multiple languages, they do have that option as well, which again, I think is such a great feature. If you click the three dots and then go to multilingual, the primary language could be set to whatever you need it to be set to. I currently have it set to English, but then you can add additional languages here. So another great tool if you need to share this out to broad populations that may have um, primary languages other than English. Okay, so we did that. Okay, theme. So now you can see the generic background or theme, or they call it a style. Either one is the same kind of name. Is just this kind of light blue, right? But if you click on the style icon on the top right-hand side, it'll give you a bunch of different options here on what kind of a style. So Microsoft is really moving fast with this AI stuff that's happening, and you can see that they kind of created these new immersive style templates, makes you feel like you're in the form. It almost feels like a movie a little bit, which again are really cool. So let me show you, for example, this is one of their immersive forms. Here's another one. It just makes it gives a little bit more pizzazz, a little oomph to your forms. So if you just scroll down, you can see the difference between a basic Microsoft form template like this, does not have that play button on it, versus the immersive, which I'm hoping that they add some more options here because these are really great. So again, the play button here shows me that immersive feeling background. And then you could click view all here. So you could get a broad overview of all the different templates or styles that they have available, and you could just click into them to check which ones you may like. But again, the immersive ones are going to be the ones that have that play button on top or next to it. You also have the option here to customize your theme. So if you click the plus sign, you can upload an image or choose a specific color. If you have something really branded that you want to make sure your form has on it. Another option that they added here is the ability to add music, background music to your Microsoft form, which again, I think is fun. It just kind of entices and engages people in wanting to fill out that form. So if I turn that on, and then again, they don't give a lot of options. I'm sure they're going to be adding more as they go along, but these are your options. Vacation mood. I don't think I'm sharing my sound. One second. Sorry, I just realized there was somebody waiting to come in. Brittany, I'm so sorry. I don't have somebody moderating the chat today. I hope you weren't waiting too long. let me stop sharing for 1 second because I want to go back in and share my computer sound so you can hear. Couldn't share sound. Okay. Well, I'm having technical difficulties, so I don't want to waste any time. I'm going to go back to sharing. Play with the adding sound on your own. I definitely recommend it. It's a cool feature that they added. I'm going to turn that off now because, woo. Okay. Um, so that's kind of how you set up your theme. And you'll see here when you do have music playing, even the person that you share the form to has the option to pause the music if it's kind of driving them crazy. So it won't play the whole time if they don't want it to either. So that's there for music. Okay, so let's go in. I'm going to keep this background. I can go in right here and just start to edit these pieces as needed. Again, title, date, and time if you want are here. You can edit those accordingly. You can remove as need be. And here's your description, right? So here's where you're going to tell people what this form is all about, why you're sending it to them, and what you need them to kind of do with the form or why it's being sent out. Okay, and we are going, oops, okay. And then we move down. Now you have to start to add your questions, right? Why are you sending this form out? What kind of information are you trying to collect from people? When you click the plus sign here is how you're going to add a new question along the way. The new question options are a few different types, and some of them can get very complicated and kind of intertwined. So I'm just going to give you again the broad overview. You have multiple choice. You can add a text question. You can add a rating type question, a date where somebody has to pick a date, a ranking. You can upload a file here. I mean, a ton of different options. So I'm just going to click multiple choice. So this just gives me that blank option here to type my question. Okay. And now I have to type in the different options that my recipients will have the option to choose from. So going to the beach, reading a book, right? And you could keep going. If you click add option, you could just keep going. And you can also add an other option. So if you want to have people have multiple choice and you want to leave that last one as other, you can do that right here as well. What is really cool here is this little icon, this little image icon next to the choices as well as next to the question now allows you to add an image with the choices or the questions. And you could do that by either uploading that image from your OneDrive or from your desktop computer, wherever you may have that saved, or just doing an image search. So if I just type in beach, and now I want to add this picture, couldn't download the image, of course. Of course, during my webinar, I'm having technical difficulties, right? Hopefully that doesn't happen to you guys when you try to do this. But that is an option and it does work, I promise. Um, you do have the option, like I said, to also insert an image or a video for the question. This is a really cool feature. So you think about maybe you want to do a video question. So you want to record yourself asking the question, make it more personal. You could do that and upload the video as the question. And you could right here watch the video for your first question or something along those lines. So just like a fun way to really make it more personal. I'm trying again, but it's not letting me do what I wanted to do. Hopefully you guys don't get this error. But yeah, so those are really cool features there. And like I said, you have the ability to decide what type of choice options you want for each question. So there's rating options, like rate this from top to bottom, highest to lowest, that type of stuff. You also have the option to add multiple different answers. So meaning that the recipient can choose multiple answers, meaning they could choose more than one, and you can choose how many you want them to be able to choose. So you really could drill down and make this very specific. This is an important feature, turning this on, requiring this question to be answered before somebody could submit the form. Sometimes people just go through a form and I don't feel like answering that, or that's too much to type, and they just keep going, and then they hit submit, and then you don't get the data you need. So if you have a question posted and you need them to answer that, make sure you toggle the required button on so that the recipients have to answer that before they submit. 3 dots here gives you a lot of different options after you type in all of your questions. Once you type in all of your questions, you can shuffle the options. So that means this is, in my opinion, more for if you're going to share this instructionally as a quiz, because if you have children or students sitting next to each other, you don't want them looking and saying, "Oh, so and so answered A or the first one for question 1, so you're going to do that." If you shuffle the questions, you know, the order of the options, then you can't cheat. So I don't think in a non-instructional way it's necessary, but it is an option there. You can drop down here. Oh, let me undo that drop down. Sorry about that. You have the option to add a subtitle. So again, if you have a question but need to give a little bit more information, that's a great option to have as a subtitle. Branching. Think about branching as like a choose your own adventure type thing. So if you have somebody ask a question, if you ask a question and then they choose an answer, it'll direct them to a specific next question. So if you say, are you going to the beach this weekend? And somebody answers yes, it's going to push them to another question that is going to be different than if they answered no. That would push them to a different question. So that can really be a great way to drill down and be a specific resource for branching off and getting the specific data, again, that you need based off each recipient's responses. Quick little tip about branching, make sure you put in all of your questions first and then do the branching, because when you click add branching, it's going to ask you to choose, if they choose yes, which next question you want them to go to. So just put all your questions in your form first and then do the branching option. And if you're going to do sections in your Microsoft Forms, also put those sections in first, because then you can branch in sections. Again, kind of a lot I'm throwing at you at once, and there's a lot to see in that. I don't think overall that's something that's going to be widely used, but it's nice to know that the option is there. All right, so let's keep on moving. Viewing responses. And this, as you can see up here on the left-hand side, it says questions. So that's when I'm typing my questions in my form here. If I clicked responses, which right now this one, you wouldn't see any responses because this is still a new form and I haven't sent it out yet. So I'm just going to go back to my kind of home page and I'm going to show you. So this is my have a topic idea form that's on the website. So if you have a topic idea that you want to submit to me, this is the link that you would go to. And I want to show you what it looks like when you get responses. So I click responses here. And I can view them one question at a time, or if I click view results, I can flip through the results. And again, I only have one question on this form, so it's not really the best showcase of the results view. But you could see I can click through and I could see who answered, how long it took them to complete, and I could print the response, which is really nice. The other option you have is that you can open your responses in Excel. So this is great if you need to filter responses, if you want to do something more with the data beyond just seeing the data in this type of a format. Opening your data in Excel gives you obviously a great amount of options on what to do with that information. So definitely check that out. All right, moving on. So let me go back to my other form that we were kind of creating here. And I'm going to show you a couple of things. So if you need to collaborate, meaning you want somebody else to help you build this form, right? So kind of think of that as them being an editor of the form. You could click the 3 dots on the top right-hand side and then click collaborate or duplicate. And here is where you would add them as a collaborator. So now that person gets an email saying you've been added as a collaborator, and they can click on the link, get into the form, and now they can work on this form and edit this form with you, which is a nice option as well. You can also share this as a template. So this will allow others to use this as a template and make it on their own, so they won't see any responses that come in. But basically what it does is give them a copy of the form that's already pre-made for them. So that's another great option. Okay, you also in the three dots have the option to print your form. So if you do have some people that may need to fill out this form in paper and pencil version, Microsoft gives you that option. So if you just print form, it looks almost identical to the way that it's created digitally, and you could just have somebody fill it out in paper and pencil format. Only thing is you're not getting that kind of instant data collection. You'd have to go in yourself and kind of input the data based off the answers that they choose on that paper. Okay, shuffle, I did that. Duplicate, oh, you can also duplicate a question. So here, if you click copy question, you can have that kind of duplicated. So in other words, if you create a question or some responses that maybe you need to use again, instead of retyping the whole thing, you just copy the question or duplicate the question. And then you do have the option to move questions based off where you want them to sit in the order. You could grab the dots up here and kind of click and drag them in the order you want them to be in. Or you can use the arrows here, and those arrows will move the questions up and down. All right, the last part is kind of how to share the form and the present mode, which is actually a new feature that Microsoft came out with, which I think is great because now they are right up to par with platforms like Mentimeter and other platforms that that give you the ability to kind of have that interactive data coming in when you're having people fill out a form. So now they have that option. So two things I'm going to show you with that, but I also really want to quickly show you preview. So once you build your form, before you start sharing it or sending it out, you want to just preview that form. What does this form look like? Is if I was the recipient getting the form, you want to make sure that it's coming across the way you want it to come across. And they do give you the option to see how it's responsive in different environments, computer and mobile. Really, really nice option that they give you here. Again, Immersive Reader is also embedded in all Microsoft tools and applications. So you do have that option to turn that on here. So does any of the recipients of your form. Okay. All right. And then if you go to present, this is now where you get that kind of interactive, real-time data coming in type of information. So if this form is going out and you're kind of in front of the people who are filling out the form and you have this up on a screen, right away you would start to see the zeros move based off the answers that are coming in. And what's really, really nice is that it also gives you that QR code right here so that if people come in after the fact that you've already shared the form and you're in the middle of kind of moving on, but you still want them to fill out the form, there's a QR code right there for you on the screen and they can scan it and continue to answer the questions. So a great update that Microsoft came out with for Microsoft Forms. So I'm coming out of present mode real quick and sharing. Okay, so that's when you're going to collect that's when you're going to click the collect responses button. So when you click that, here's where you're going to figure out exactly how you want to share this form. You can make it open. This is like your permissions. Anyone can respond. Only people in my organization can respond. So that's within our Nassau BOCES tenant, right? So if you're trying to share this with external users, make sure that you click anyone can respond. And within our tenant, you can choose if you want it to record their name or if you want the ability to prevent people from continuing to fill out the form, you only want one response from each person, you can check that box off too. And this record name is a nice thing because instead of having question number 1 be, what is your name? If you just check this off when you're sharing it, it'll automatically give you that information. You don't have to make it a question. And then here is obviously if you want to specifically share this form with a specific person, group, email address, and do it right here. You could do that right here. So that's specific people, very similar to the share button in any other application. So I'm going to keep it on that share option, permission option right now. And then on this side, you have the link to the form. So you can copy it right here. I always like to shorten the link. Again, I'm not a big fan of having huge, long, convoluted hyperlinks. So I like to click shorten link and then copy. So instead of a crazy long link, you get a nice short link that you can share out with people or embed into an email or however you want to share it. Um, Another option here is by sending it in kind of like an invitation mode. Again, this is really cool. You can share this invitation mode to a name, a group, a chat, or a channel in Teams. Here at the bottom is how you're choosing how that's coming across. So right now it's checked off for Outlook, so the invitation will get sent via Outlook, but you can also check off Teams. So again, if you're trying to kind of guide people to using Teams more, if you already have a Teams environment set up, this is a really great way to have them fill out that information in the Teams environment. You don't have to take the link and go into Teams and then paste the link. You could do it right here. And again, you can have the cover look like this, or have an embedded cover that actually looks just like the Forms cover, which is really nice. And this is one of my favorite features here. Again, the QR code. It gives you the ability to download the QR code for this form. Now, once you download it, you could put this QR code on any other document, a Word document, a PowerPoint document, right? You could share it in an email because now it's downloaded as an image. So let me show you how that comes across. So I just click download, and let me move this over. That is how it comes across, and you could copy and paste this image anywhere you need this to be. Really, really great. Another great upgrade from Microsoft. And really cool. They give you two options. You can have your QR code look like this or like this. Really great. And this is your embed code. Again, if you're copying and pasting this form into a web page and you need the embed code, this is where you would get it. Okay, I talk too much. I think I went over everything in the agenda. And we're over time, of course, we always are. So I'm going to go into the settings. Give me 1 second. I am going to allow you to turn on mics and cameras. 1 second. Okay, there you go. You should have the ability to unmute and or turn on your camera if you want to. I don't think any questions came in the chat. Nope. So if you have any questions now for me, again, I threw a lot of information at you. As always in these webinars, I tried to be respectful of time, but it's just so much to share. So if you do want to schedule, a follow-up, or you want another training, thanks, Kim. Obviously always book time with me, reach out to me, email Teams, however you'd like, and we could go over some more information on forms or anything else you want. But thank you for coming. It's 1 o'clock. I'm available. I'm going to stay here if you want to ask some questions or just say hi. Otherwise, thank you. And I'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks, Joan. Thanks, Andrew. Oh, good. I'm glad, Joanne. Thanks, Brittany. Sorry if I didn't let you in. I did see the alert early enough. I hope you didn't miss too much, but it's always recorded just in case.
No worries. Thanks so much. Appreciate it as always.
Okay, thank you.